All right, so get ready because we're diving into astrology,
Ooh, exciting.
but not the kind that like tells your fortune or anything like that.
Okay.
This is about using astrology as a tool for personal growth. And it's all based on this book,
Okay.
Astrology for Personal Growth, aligning with your potential.
Sounds interesting.
So we're going to learn how understanding your sun and moon signs can reveal your strengths, your weaknesses, even provide some advice for you specifically
Cool.
to reach your full potential.
I love that.
And to help us break down all this astro wisdom,
Yes.
we've got our expert right here.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So most people know their sun sign.
Right.
It's the one based on your birthday. But how does that connect to personal growth?
So your sun sign represents your core identity,
Okay.
like how you approach life, express yourself. Think of it like the overarching theme of your personal growth journey.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so where does the moon sign fit into all of this?
Well, your moon sign is all about your emotions,
Oh.
how you process your feelings, what makes you feel secure.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So the sun sign is external, the moon sign is internal.
exactly.
Seems like understanding both gives you a much more well-rounded picture.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like having the full view.
Right.
Like, let's say you're an Aries sun,
Okay.
which is known for being bold and ambitious. But your moon sign is Cancer, which is nurturing and sensitive.
Okay.
So you might be driven to succeed, but you also need emotional security and connection to thrive.
That's so interesting. It's like two sides of the same coin,
Exactly. Yeah.
each playing a role in how you experience the world.
Yeah. It's like having these different energies within you.
That's so cool.
Right.
Okay, so before we dive into each sign, let's talk about the four elements. Fire, earth, air, and water.
Yes.
Each zodiac sign is associated with one of these elements.
Right.
And I feel like it gives further insight into your energy
Absolutely.
and how you approach life.
It's like another layer.
Right. So how do these elements play into personal growth?
So for example, fire signs like Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius.
Okay.
They're known for their passion and energy. They might charge headfirst into new projects, but need to learn patience
Well, that makes sense.
and focus.
Yeah.
And then you have earth signs like Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn,
Okay.
who are grounded and practical. Their growth might involve embracing flexibility and stepping outside their comfort zones.
I see. So understanding the element of your sun sign can give you a clue as to what areas you might naturally excel in and what areas might require a bit more effort.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah, so with that in mind, let's dive into the specifics of each sign,
Okay.
starting with the fire signs.
Okay.
First up, Aries the Ram,
All right. Aries.
a sign known for its boldness and courage.
So when we talk about an Aries being bold,
Yeah.
how does that translate into a strength they can utilize on their personal growth journey?
Aries are natural initiators. They're not afraid to take risks and just dive headfirst into new experiences. This makes them courageous and like pioneering individuals capable of achieving great things.
I can see that. They probably don't shy away from challenges.
They don't, however, that same boldness can manifest as impatience
Okay.
and impulsivity. They might jump into things without thinking them through or get frustrated when things don't move quickly enough.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's almost like a strength becoming a weakness.
Exactly.
If it's not managed properly.
And this is where understanding their element comes in.
Right.
As a fire sign, Aries thrives on action.
Okay.
So instead of telling them to be more patient,
Right.
we need to find ways for them to channel that fiery energy constructively.
So what kind of advice would help an Aries navigate that potential pitfall?
Learning to pause before reacting is crucial
Okay.
in Aries. Activities like meditation
Okay.
or even engaging in physical activities that require focus and control. Like martial arts can help them develop that patience.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Finding a healthy outlet
Right.
for that energy.
Exactly.
Okay. So we've covered the bold and sometimes impatient Aries.
Yes.
What about the next fire sign, Leo?
All right, Leo.
I always think of Leos as being super confident
Yeah.
and charismatic.
You're right. Leos are known for their radiant energy and their desire to shine. They're natural leaders, often inspiring others with their creativity and enthusiasm.
They seem like the kind of people who just light up a room when they walk in.
They do.
But I'm guessing there's also a flip side to that.
There is.
Okay.
While their confidence is a powerful asset,
Mm-hmm.
it can tip into a need to be the center of attention.
Right.
They might struggle with sharing the spotlight or accepting criticism.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that each sign has a specific area of growth.
Yes.
What would that be for a Leo?
For Leos, the key to growth lies in cultivating humility and embracing collaboration. Learning to share the stage and appreciate the contributions of others can help them unlock even greater potential.
So it's not about dimming their shine. It's about using that light to illuminate others as well.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, and this is where understanding their element comes in again.
Okay.
As a fire sign, Leos thrive on expressing themselves. So finding creative outlets that allow them to collaborate with others, like theater or team-based projects, can help them tap into that growth area.
So cool. I'm starting to see how these elements add a whole new dimension to understanding each sign.
Right.
Okay, so we've got the bold Aries and the radiant Leo. What about Sagittarius, the last of the fire signs?
Right. Sagittarius.
What sets them apart?
Sagittarians are the adventurers of the zodiac.
Ooh.
They're known for their optimism, their love of freedom, and their constant thirst for knowledge and new experiences.
That sounds exciting.
It is.
But I imagine that could also lead to some challenges.
Absolutely.
When it comes to personal growth.
While their adventurous spirit is admirable, it can sometimes make it difficult for them to commit to long-term goals or relationships. They might jump from one thing to another without fully exploring their potential in any one area.
So their growth focus would be on finding a balance between exploration and commitment.
Precisely.
Okay.
Learning to cultivate patience and focus their energy on meaningful pursuits can help Sagittarians achieve a greater sense of fulfillment.
It sounds like they need to find a way to harness that boundless energy.
Right.
And direct it towards something that really resonates with them.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
Now, having explored the fiery energy of the fire signs, let's move on to a very different element.
Earth.
All right, Earth.
First up, we have Taurus, the bull.
Ooh, Taurus.
Yes.
Welcome back to our deep dive into astrology for personal growth, and wow.
I know, right?
We've already covered so much.
From the fiery energy of those fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius.
Right.
I'm excited to see what the earth signs bring to the table.
Me too.
You mentioned Taurus first. What are they all about?
Okay, so Taurus is all about stability, sensuality, enjoying the finer things in life.
Okay.
You know, they're the grounded foundation of the zodiac. They value security, loyalty, and they're incredibly dedicated to the people they love.
I can definitely see that. But you mentioned earlier that earth signs might struggle with flexibility.
Right.
How does that play out with a Taurus?
So their desire for stability
Okay.
can make them resistant to change.
Okay.
They thrive on routine, familiarity. So anything that kind of disrupts that can feel unsettling. Imagine a bull being pushed out of its pasture.
Right.
They might dig in their heels and resist.
Okay. I can see how that can become a roadblock.
Yes.
On the personal growth journey.
Absolutely.
For Taurus, the key to growth is learning to embrace change.
Yeah.
In small, manageable doses.
Yes. In a way that feels safe and controlled.
So instead of just saying go with the flow.
Right, which might feel overwhelming.
Right.
You know, focus on helping them expand their comfort zone gradually.
So what kind of advice would resonate with a Taurus who's trying to become more adaptable?
Start with small changes to their routine.
Oh.
Maybe trying a new recipe once a week or exploring a different genre of music.
I like that.
The key is to introduce novelty in a way that feels, again, safe and controlled.
Right. Honoring your need for security.
Exactly.
While still encouraging them to step outside that comfort zone.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got Taurus.
Yes.
The steadfast and sometimes stubborn bull.
Yes. Love them.
What about the next earth sign? Virgo.
Virgo. Okay, so Virgos are known for their practicality, their analytical minds, and meticulous attention to detail.
Yeah.
They're the organizers of the zodiac, always striving for perfection
Okay.
in everything they do.
Wow.
Think of them as like the master craftspeople, constantly refining and improving their skills.
You mentioned that Virgos can be quite hardworking.
Yes.
Is that where their strength lies when it comes to personal growth?
Absolutely. Their dedication and work ethic are unmatched.
Okay.
They set high standards for themselves and are willing to put in the effort to achieve their goals.
Right.
This makes them incredibly capable and resourceful individuals.
But I imagine there's also a potential downside to that, right?
There is.
All that striving for perfection could lead to some challenges.
Yeah, Virgos can be incredibly self-critical. Okay. Their desire for everything to be just right can make them prone to anxiety and overthinking.
Yeah.
They might get so caught up in the details that they miss the bigger picture.
Right. It's like you can't see the forest for the trees.
Exactly.
So for a Virgo,
yes,
would the growth focus be on learning to let go of that need for control?
Yeah.
And embrace imperfection?
Yes. Learning to prioritize progress over perfection is crucial for Virgos. This might involve practicing self-compassion, learning to delegate tasks, or simply allowing themselves to make mistakes without feeling like a failure.
It sounds like they need to find a way to balance that meticulous nature with a bit more acceptance and flexibility.
That's a great way to put it, and this is where their earth element comes in again.
Okay.
Virgos are grounded in the tangible world, so practical tools and techniques can be incredibly helpful for them.
Okay.
Things like mindfulness exercises, time management strategies, or even therapy can provide them with concrete ways to manage their anxieties and cultivate self-compassion.
Okay, so we've covered Taurus.
Yes.
And Virgo. What about the final Earth sign, Capricorn?
Capricorn. Okay.
They seem to have a reputation for being ambitious and disciplined.
You're right on the mark.
Okay.
Capricorns are the goal setters of the zodiac.
Ooh, I like that.
They're incredibly responsible, disciplined, and driven to succeed.
Okay.
Think of them as the climbers, always focused on reaching the summit.
I admire their dedication.
Yes.
But I'm guessing that all that ambition
Yeah.
might come with some challenges as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Capricorns can be so focused on achieving their goals that they neglect their own well-being.
Oh, no.
They might work long hours, push themselves too hard,
Right.
and forget to make time for rest and relaxation.
Oh, that's not good. So for a Capricorn, would the growth focus be on learning to prioritize self-care?
Yes.
And create a more balanced life?
Precisely. Capricorns need to learn to celebrate their accomplishments.
Okay.
And give themselves permission to enjoy the fruits of their labor.
Right.
This might involve setting boundaries around work, scheduling time for hobbies and activities they enjoy,
Right.
or simply learning to say no more often.
That's such an important reminder.
It is.
Not just for Capricorns, but for all of us.
Yeah, for everyone in this fast-paced world.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now, having traversed the grounded realm of earth signs, let's shift gears and explore the airy domain of the air signs.
Okay, the air signs.
First up, we have Gemini.
All right, Gemini.
The twins.
Yes, the twins.
Welcome back to our deep dive into astrology for personal growth. It's amazing how each sign has its own unique strengths and challenges.
It is, right?
We've covered the fiery energy of Aries, the grounded practicality of Capricorn. Now it's time to explore those air signs. You mentioned Gemini first.
Yes.
What makes them unique?
Geminis. Geminis are the communicators of the zodiac.
Okay.
Known for their quick wit, their intellectual curiosity, and their ability to connect with people from all walks of life.
Right.
Think of them as the butterflies.
Okay.
Flitting from one fascinating idea or conversation to the next.
I can definitely picture that.
Yeah.
They always seem up for a good debate or exploring new concepts.
Right, exactly.
But how does that translate into a strength for personal growth?
Well, their adaptability is a huge asset.
Okay.
They're able to see multiple perspectives, which makes them excellent problem solvers and creative thinkers.
Okay.
They're not afraid to try new things and can easily adjust to changing circumstances.
That is a valuable skill in today's world.
For sure.
But you mentioned earlier that air signs might struggle with focus.
Yes.
How does that manifest with a Gemini?
So their curiosity can sometimes lead them to become scattered.
Okay.
You know, they might start a dozen projects, but have trouble finishing any of them.
Right.
Think of a bee buzzing from flower to flower, collecting pollen, but not building a hive.
Okay, so they're getting all that information.
Yes.
But not necessarily doing anything with it.
Yeah, they're gathering, but not applying.
Right, okay. I can see how that could hinder their personal growth.
Absolutely.
So for Gemini, the key is to learn to channel that intellectual energy and direct it towards meaningful goals.
Yes, and this might involve setting priorities, breaking down large tasks into smaller steps, or finding ways to integrate their diverse interests into a cohesive path.
So it's about finding a balance between exploration and focus.
Precisely.
It seems like a common theme for a lot of these signs.
It is. It's about finding that right balance for your astrological blueprint.
Right, okay.
Now, speaking of balance, let's move on to Libra.
Okay.
The scales of the zodiac.
Libras are often associated with harmony and diplomacy.
Right.
How do those traits play into their strengths for personal growth?
So Libras are natural peacemakers.
Okay.
They value fairness, balance, and strive to create harmony in their relationships and their surroundings.
What?
They're also incredibly charming and diplomatic, able to smooth over conflicts and bring people together.
They sound like the ideal mediators.
They can be.
But I'm guessing there's also a potential downside.
There is, yeah.
To always seeking that harmony.
Their desire to please everyone can make them indecisive.
Okay.
And prone to people-pleasing.
Right.
They might avoid conflict or struggle to assert their own needs.
Right.
Imagine a set of scales, constantly tipping back and forth, never finding a point of equilibrium.
Oh, wow. That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
So for a Libra, the growth focus would be on finding that inner balance.
Yes.
And learning to make decisions confidently.
Exactly.
Okay.
This might involve practicing setting boundaries, learning to say no, or developing their own sense of self-worth, independent of others' opinions.
It sounds like they need to find a way to use that diplomacy, not just in their external relationships, but also their internal world.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Okay, so we've got Gemini, we've got Libra.
Yes.
Let's move on to the final air sign.
Okay.
Aquarius.
Aquarius.
They have a reputation for being a bit unconventional.
They do, a little bit.
I always think of Aquarians as the innovators.
Yes.
The ones who challenge the status quo.
Right.
What sets them apart when it comes to personal growth?
Aquarians are the visionaries of the zodiac.
Okay.
Independent thinkers, humanitarians at heart, always seeking to make the world a better place.
Right.
Think of them as the lightning strike.
Okay.
Illuminating new possibilities and sparking change.
I admire their commitment to making a difference.
Yes.
But how does that independent nature translate into a potential challenge for personal growth?
So their focus on the bigger picture can sometimes make it difficult for them to connect on a deeper emotional level.
Oh.
You know, they might prioritize intellectual pursuits over personal relationships or struggle to express their feelings.
So their growth focus would be on developing their emotional intelligence?
Yes.
And fostering deeper connections with others?
Precisely.
Okay.
Learning to open their hearts, embrace vulnerability, and cultivate intimacy can help them create a more fulfilling and balanced life.
It sounds like they need to find a way to bring that humanitarian spirit into their personal relationships as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so we've explored the intellectual realm of the air signs.
We have.
Time to dive into that final element.
Right.
Water.
Outer sign.
First up, we had Cancer the crab.
Cancer.
I always associate Cancers with being nurturing and sensitive.
Yes.
How do those qualities manifest as strengths for personal growth?
Cancers are the nurturers of the zodiac. They're incredibly intuitive, compassionate, and create a sense of home wherever they go.
Right.
Think of them as the gentle stream.
Okay.
Nourishing and supporting everything in its path.
They seem like the kind of people you can always count on.
Yes.
For a shoulder to cry on or a warm hug.
Absolutely. They're incredibly loyal and fiercely protective of the people they love.
But that same sensitivity can also lead to challenges.
It can.
Right.
Yeah.
I imagine they might be prone to taking things personally or getting hurt easily.
You're right. Cancers can be quite sensitive and may absorb the emotions of others.
Oh, wow.
They might also struggle to set boundaries or prioritize their own needs.
Okay.
Think of a crab retreating into its shell for protection, sometimes isolating themselves instead of dealing with difficult emotions.
So for Cancer, would the growth focus be on learning to protect their own energy?
Yes.
And setting healthy boundaries?
Exactly.
Okay.
Developing self-care practices, learning to communicate their needs assertively, and finding healthy ways to process their emotions can empower them to create a more fulfilling life.
It sounds like they need to find a way to balance that nurturing energy with a strong sense of self-preservation.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so we've got Cancer.
Yes.
Let's move on to the mysterious Scorpio.
All right, Scorpio.
The scorpion of the zodiac.
Yes.
Scorpios have a reputation for being intense and passionate.
They do.
How do those qualities play into their strengths for personal growth?
Scorpios are the alchemists of the zodiac.
Okay.
Incredibly perceptive, resourceful, and have a depth of emotion that allows them to transform and heal.
Wow.
Think of them as the phoenix rising from the ashes.
Okay.
Capable of profound change and regeneration.
They sound like powerful individuals.
They are.
But what are some potential challenges they might face on their personal growth journey?
Their intensity can sometimes lead them to become fixated on things or hold on to grudges.
Right.
They might struggle with trust or have a tendency to be possessive in relationships.
Right.
Think of a scorpion with its stinger, always at the ready, protecting itself from perceived threats.
So for a Scorpio, the growth focus would be on learning to let go of the past.
Yes.
And embrace vulnerability.
Exactly.
Okay.
Practicing forgiveness, cultivating trust, and allowing themselves to be emotionally open with others can help them experience deeper connection and fulfillment.
It sounds like they need to find a way to use that transformative power, not to control others, but to heal themselves.
Yes, that's a profound insight.
Now let's move on to the final sign.
All right.
Pisces.
Pisces.
The fish of the zodiac.
Yes.
Pisces are often described as being dreamy and intuitive.
They are.
How do those qualities contribute to their strengths for personal growth?
Okay, so Pisces are the dreamers of the zodiac.
Right.
Incredibly compassionate, creative, and have a deep connection to the spiritual realm.
Okay.
Think of them as the vast ocean, filled with endless possibilities and boundless empathy.
They sound like incredibly sensitive and imaginative individuals.
They are.
But how might those qualities also create challenges for personal growth?
So their dreamy nature can make them prone to escapism. Or getting lost in their own world. They might struggle with boundaries, have difficulty making decisions, or be easily influenced by others. Imagine a fish swimming in different currents. Sometimes losing its sense of direction.
So for a Pisces, the growth focus would be on learning to ground themselves.
Yes.
And set healthy boundaries.
Exactly. Developing practical skills, creating structure in their lives, and learning to discern their own needs from the needs of others can help them manifest their dreams and navigate the world with more confidence.
Wow, we covered all 12 signs.
We did.
I feel like we've learned so much.
I know, right?
It's amazing how understanding your sun sign, your moon sign, and your element can provide so much insight into your personal growth journey.
It's like having a personalized roadmap.
Right. And remember, this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
There's so much more to explore.
Absolutely.
Within each sign and within your own individual birth chart.
Yes. It's a lifelong journey.
Now, before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your final thoughts on how we can integrate these insights into our daily lives.
Okay. So the key is to use this knowledge as a tool for self-awareness and growth.
Okay.
Don't get too caught up in the labels.
Right.
Or try to fit yourself into a box. Instead, use these insights to understand your tendencies, your patterns, and your potential.
So it's not about being defined by your sign. It's about using it as a guide to understand yourself better.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Embrace your strengths, work on your growth areas, and most importantly, be kind to yourself along the way.
Always.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into astrology for personal growth.
Yes, thank you.
We encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep embracing that amazing potential within you.